It's time for Wise Money with Korhorn Financial Group with certified financial planners Kevin Korhorn, Mike Bernard, and Josh Gregory.
Welcome to another episode of the Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group, where every week we're helping you take your next wise step in your financial life. Thanks for being here, friends. My name is Mike Bernard. I am your host. I'm also one of the certified financial planners on the program. With me in the KFG studios, my business partners and fellow CFPs, Kevin Korhorn and Josh Gregory.
If you're getting close to retirement, do you know the rules for required minimum distributions? RMDs, as we often call them, those can cause a lot of extra taxes, more than what you'd want to pay. So we're going to be covering today what are some of the strategies that you can do earlier in life or even close to retirement to help reduce your required minimum distributions. That and more on today's episode.
There's no question, zero question. It's not even close. What financial or what industry has the greatest use of acronyms? This is financial. It's like not even close. It's the FI, financial, the financial industry. RMDs, you're probably familiar with that. It's required minimum distribution. We're going to explain what that is, and we're going to answer a question on it. Well, how do you reduce it? How do you manage the tax on that? If you have a question for the program, we'd love to hear from you. You can call or text us 574-222-2000. That's 574-222-2000. Online, wisemoneyshow.com is where you can find us. Reach out to us that way as well. Or then all over social media, wherever you're at, we are there as well. Search The Wise Money Show. And we're talking about RMDs right now. It's a question from a fan of the show, but it's also the time. This is it. It's the end of the year. You are on it right now. If you have not taken your required minimum distribution right now, you need to have a plan for doing so. And if you say, yeah, I've already got it. Well, this is also the time to be planning for next year, right? Mm-hmm. Next year's right around the corner. You're going to take it early. You're going to do Roth conversions. You're going to do other things. And so we're helping you plan for that. So let's get into it. Question from fan of the show, Donna. Here's what she asked. I'm age 71, and I will be starting my RMDs at age 73. That's the new rule. We'll explain it here in just a second. I want to know if there's anything I can do at this late stage to reduce what taxes I will owe on my RMD. I should have started sooner, but I'm hoping I can do something now. Thanks. There is actually a lot of depth to this. Mm-hmm. Now, you guys know this. We are talkers. And so I was talking before the show, before we started recording. It's like, well, how many questions do you think we'll get to? Guys, it's very possible we'll just get to one. We'll see. But there's a lot of depth here. So before we get into the planning implications, let's first just start, what's RMD? How does it work? Those kind of basics.
This is a common question for people who are approaching their 70s because they know there's a rule out there, and they understand that there's some compliance that they're going to have at some point. But you need to educate yourself on this and make sure that you understand required minimum distributions have to do with retirement plans. And it could be a retirement plan that you have through work, or often we're referring to individual retirement accounts or IRAs. But you think of these accounts as a tax shelter. It's a place for you to save money for the long term. You're going to grow these assets in investments that can have a compounding effect over time. And you can build up a lot of money in these accounts. It's one of the most powerful ways that you can get yourself ready for retirement. But eventually, there's coming a day when not only are you going to want to pull money out to live off of in retirement, but there's actually some requirements that go with it, because that money can't stay in a tax shelter forever. Mm-hmm. As long as it sits in that tax shelter, it's out of the reach of Uncle Sam. And since Uncle Sam got to write the rule book, he made sure that he's going to have access to taxing those dollars eventually, whether it's in your lifetime or your beneficiary's lifetime. Eventually that money, if it's never been taxed before, it will eventually get taxed in an IRA or a 401k.
Yeah, so retirement accounts come in different shapes and sizes. I get teased here brutally for loving the Roth IRA, which I really do. I do, the Roth 401k. But what we're talking about is RMDs apply to your pre-tax, pre-tax accounts.
Or now, traditional IRAs, traditional 401ks.
That's right. Now, and this just a true testament to how crazy the IRS is and some of these rules, or Congress. There used to be a required minimum distribution on Roth 401ks. Thankfully, they got rid of that. But so we're talking about pre-tax. You made a deal when you started saving pre-tax in your 401k or IRA, and that is, hey, give me a deduction now. Don't tax this money while it's in the account, and I'll promise I'll let you tax it when I take it out. And the IRS says, okay, I'll take that deal, but you have to start taking it out at some point. And what's that some point? It used to be 70 and a half. Because again, they're cruel. Like that's insane.
What a weird age.
That's insane.
Who celebrates their half birthday?
I mean, other than me, I don't know. But then they moved it to age 72, and now they've moved it to 73. And in that law, they're moving it to age 75. So speaking of cruel, like they added insult to injury there.
Well, and the population has been aging longer or living longer, and so by delaying it, it maybe matches a little bit closer to some of the life expectancies and everything. But at the end of the day, you are still going to have to do this, whether it's age 75 for you or, in Donna's case, age 73.
Okay, so what's the calculation? How do you know? How much do you need to take out?
Well, if you're going to oversimplify it, it's based on your life expectancy, and those are found in the IRS tables. And so you have a...
See, get this. They're telling you how long you're going to live as well. So not only that.
It's mandated by the IRS.
Yep.
And the IRS, who better than the IRS? One of the two certainties in life is that you're going to pay taxes to the IRS and you're going to die.
Yeah.
So you pay taxes to the IRS, and then they tell you when you're going to die.
So there's a calculation that's done not by the IRS. Gosh, that would be super helpful. But it's not. Like if they would just tell you what to do, then you could do it. But your financial institution, and of course we're going to tell you, no, your CFP should be helping you with this. The account value on 12/31 of your pre-tax accounts divided by a life expectancy factor.
It's an age-based divisor that changes every single year. So it's not even as simple as, well, the calculation is done once and then you just carry it forward forever into the future. I just know I've got to pull $3,000 out every year or $30,000. No, it's a new calculation every year because the ending value at the end of the prior calendar year, that's one of the factors of the calculation. And then your age goes up every single year and the divisor changes. And so it's math that has to be done constantly. And it's something that you have to make sure you never lose track of. It needs to be worked into things like your tax projection each fall and just making sure that you are staying in compliance with this.
Yeah, and there are a few things that you want to know. So we're talking about a divisor, and depending on how well you did at math, I had Mrs. Nista teaching me Algebra 2, which is why my math abilities are stunted. But don't blame me. So, but anyways, you say, okay, divide it by a divisor. Come on, are you serious? Well, let me make it simple for you. If you're 73, you probably could just think in terms of 4% of your balance. That's not perfect. Do not take that to the bank. But if you took about 4% of your balance, and then the question is, if you're going to take 4% of your balance as an RMD, where does that go? Mm-hmm. Because you say, well, what if I don't need that? Then I would say, well, there are a couple purposes that you could use it for. You could withhold. If you had a $500,000 in your IRA, you could use it and withhold that $20,000 RMD for federal and state taxes and not touch a penny of it. Let that pay your tax bill, if that would cover your tax bill and you're not going to be subject to penalties for underpayment, whatnot. That's a pretty efficient way to do it. Another thing that we've seen folks do is use it to fund their charitable wishes. So use it as what's called a QCD, a qualified charitable distribution. So it goes right from your IRA to the charity, and you don't pay any taxes on it.
Yeah, we're going to jump into that a little bit more here in a minute.
But I think the point, though, is the IRS doesn't care what you do with it or how you're going to spend it, what you're going to give it for or anything like that. They just want to know that it came out of the IRA, got counted as income for the year, and they get to tax it.
Right. And if you don't work in retirement but you'd like a job, leave retirement plans all over the place. Because I've worked with the folks that have they worked at a number of different colleges and universities, and they were comfortable with where the money was, so they just kind of left it everywhere they went. Well, now you have to take the RMD from each of those accounts.
Yeah, the rules with RMDs, when you have multiple accounts, you can aggregate all your IRAs and treat them as one, but your 401ks are separate. And 403bs are separate too, but you're allowed to aggregate old 403bs together, but you can't aggregate them with IRAs, and old 401ks cannot be aggregated together. See, it's just crazy. It will make you crazy.
No, it makes total sense.
So work with your CFP. All right, we're going to get to the question. How can you reduce the taxes on your RMD? We've got that more coming up on the Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group. Hello, YouTube. Thanks for being here. This is the Wise Money Show. What you're watching right now is our weekly 1-hour talk show that airs right here on this channel, 10 a.m. Eastern time every Saturday morning, and also on podcast at the same time as well, and also on a couple local radio stations, which is why it's broken up the way that it is, with segments and all that sort of fun stuff. But we've got lots of content that airs right here on this channel, 10-minute videos, 8-minute videos, next wise steps of really taking one financial concept, applying it to your financial life from a planning perspective so that you can understand, well, all right, what are my choices? All right, how do I make the next wise step in my financial life? So make sure you hit that subscribe button. Turn on notifications so you're made aware every time we drop new content. If you like the content, we appreciate it. I'm trying to sneak one in there. I see you. I see you.
You know,
I know what Mike wants to do. We'll talk about strategies later, but I want to talk about the QCD right now.
keeping you on your toes. Well, it came to me, and I think, well, that's a sign of that brilliant minds think alike, because I was able to sneak ahead in the agenda without even reading the agenda. Who else can do that?
All right, so we'll get into it now. That's just popcorning, sharing ideas. And well, I'm not going to tell you my brain is on a certain path with RMDs, thinking at a little different paradigm than I've thought of in the past. But this idea of how do you manage and reduce it. So hopefully it comes out on there. So it might stink.
Can't wait.
Usually does. All right. Second segment. Here we go. Is there anything that you can do to reduce the taxes that you're going to be having to pay on your required minimum distribution from your pre-tax retirement accounts? Yes. Planning. And we're helping with that right now. This is the Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group. Thanks for being here. My name is Mike Bernard. With me in the KFG studios, Kevin Korhorn and Josh Gregory. Stay up to date on all Wise Money content. Find us online, wisemoneyshow.com. And then all over social media, wherever you're at, we are there as well. Search the Wise Money Show. Question from Donna. I'm 71. I need to start required minimum distributions at 73. Is there anything I can do right now to reduce the taxable impact on it? We just shared kind of the baseline. One other caveat I would say, Josh was sort of saying, the IRS doesn't really care what you do with it. You just got to take it out. Except for one exception. You can't take it out and put it in the Roth.
True. Yep.
You can't do a Roth conversion. Other than that, do whatever you want. Okay. How? What are some planning opportunities to reduce the tax? Kevin, you mentioned our favorite. And so can you expand on that? The qualified charitable distribution. That's our favorite.
Well, yeah, that if you said I don't want to pay taxes on my required minimum distribution, if you're in a position to send it straight to a charity, we work with a lot of business owners. A lot of business owners say the value that I'm creating in the business is going to be how I'm going to live in retirement. So should I even put money into a retirement plan? I can give you 72 reasons as a business owner why you should be fully funding a retirement plan. And then the question is, well, do I do it pre-tax, after-tax, or Roth? And I do like the Roth 401k, but for a lot of the business owners, put it in pre-tax. Your income, you're probably in the top tax brackets, and that will give you an opportunity when the time comes, once you hit 70 and a half, to do all of your charitable contributions from money that's never had any taxes paid on it.
That's right.
So you never paid any taxes on those earnings. And when it goes to the charity, they don't pay taxes on them. And so you say, well, I can start that at 70 and a half, but you just told me my required minimum distribution doesn't start until I'm at age 72, 73, 75, depending on all different things. That's right. So, but you could say, if we're using the $500,000 example and I've got 20 grand that I have to pull out of my plan to avoid the 25% penalty, which used to be 50%. So I'm going to avoid that penalty. I'm going to get my required minimum distribution done. Yeah, send that straight So I got RMD and I've got QCD. So Mikey B was just talking about all of the different
acronyms.
Yes, but again, this is where you want to see, because for the business owner who says, "Look, I don't need an event. I'm getting, I have various streams of income. I'm fine in retirement. I don't need all those dollars that I've accumulated and compounded over all these years." Then use that to fund your charitable contributions, and that actually leaves you more liquid with more cash than you had planned on having.
So imagine that you're used to maybe writing a check and putting it in the offering plate at church, or you donate to a certain charity every single year, and it's just coming out of your checking account. What if it came directly out of the IRA and allowed you to check the box and say, I'm done with my required minimum distribution for the year, at least maybe partially done with it, and I never even had to count that as income on my tax return. You're getting the best of both worlds. You're freeing up some cash flow in your checking account, you're satisfying the government's requirements, and you're not paying any taxes on it, and neither does the charity who received it. So, yeah, we love that strategy. It's not available to you until age 70 and a half, which recognize, if we're talking to Donna about how required minimum distributions are coming up at age 73 for her, you can start this strategy before you even are taking required minimum distributions.
Why? And Donna, this we're talking to you because you can do it right now, and that's going to reduce your IRA balance, your pre-tax IRA balance, which is going to flow into your calculation 2 years from now and ultimately reduce what's required, which will reduce the taxes. Like, this is why, guys, proactive.
Yeah.
Proactive planning ahead. You don't know the future. I don't either. But you can plan ahead. And so, because I've had this conversation, I've wrestled with it in my mind that, should I even do QCDs until I have to start doing my RMD? It's not that big a deal. I'm sure. I know now that the ages are different. I can do it at 70 and a half, but I'll just wait until I'm 73. No, start it at 70 and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah. And one of the main reasons to start at 70 and a half is that if I am writing a check, and again, the business owners we're working with it's not just the church. It's probably 10, 15. I've seen them supporting 20 different organizations. But you say, so why would I do a QCD instead of just writing checks? And here's why. When I write checks, or when I put the money into my donor advised fund, I'm saving money on my federal income tax because I get a deduction for that. I don't get a deduction on the state. So if I'm in a state where I pay state income tax, I'm not getting a deduction for that. Yep. So now all of a sudden, if I live in Indiana or Michigan, I'm saving, think in terms of, call it 5%. So I the $20,000 that went straight to the charity now is saving me an additional $1,000.
Yeah,
and for some people, that is the only way that they're really going to save some taxes, because they were using the standard deduction on their tax return, and so they might not be getting a charitable write-off anyway for writing a check and giving it to the charity.
All right, a couple more rules, and then we'll go on to the next idea. But QCDs, qualified charitable distributions, can only happen from IRAs. You cannot do it from a 401k or 403b. And then the other is, as of now, you can't do a QCD into a DAF, into a donor advised fund, because of the rule that your QCD has to go directly from the IRA directly to the charity. And when it goes to a donor advised fund, you haven't named the charity yet. You've just named a charitable account. And the IRS, as of right now, says, we're not playing that game.
Yeah,
so,
if you're hanging with us, give yourself a high five, because this is some pretty meaty stuff. But I was just talking with a client who's also a friend, and he was saying how his wife forwarded the email to him from the charity, which said, hey, you got to go online and print out your statement for tax purposes. And, this was for 2024, and she couldn't figure it out. And then he went to do it, and his wife was actually confused about which charity. And so he actually spent an hour unwinding the whole ball of string and figuring it out. That's the downside to writing a check to the charity, because if you write the check to the donor advised fund, the tax benefit happens the day you give the money to the donor advised fund, and you don't need any kind of a receipt from the charity when you make the grant to the charity from your donor advised fund.
Yep.
So I do hope donor advised funds completely revolutionize how people give money to any charitable cause they care about.
All right, this isn't next in line, but if we keep moving on to Donna's question, what things can you do to reduce the tax? Now, this is indirect, but Kevin, you mentioned earlier that, well, what if you don't need the money? And Donna, we're assuming that that's the case because you're saying I now have to take this required minimum distribution as if you're not already taking withdrawals from your IRA. That's fine. So what if you didn't need the money and it's required? Yep, that's what the R stands for. But what if you could position it so that no one pays tax on it for the next generation? What if you took your RMD and you had to pay the tax and maybe you withhold on it, whatever, and then you use the rest of it to give to the kids and have them fund their Roth IRAs, or give to the grandkids and have them fund their Roth IRAs? And I know that doesn't help you, but what does you mean? Typically when you're talking about finances, you means your family. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And oftentimes we might think of maybe just a spouse or immediate family, but you got to think multi-generationally. And so, yes, there's more ideas we're going to share about how you can plan ahead to reduce taxes on your RMD. But maybe that's the strategy you needed to know right now is, okay, you pay the tax and then position these dollars to not have taxes on them for the next 40 years. Or 50 years or even longer. So, and good time for that right now, right? Holidays and thinking about gifts and all that sort of stuff. So, but there are more ideas. There are more things that you can do to plan ahead so that this requirement doesn't restrict your financial situation so much and cause you to pay a lot of taxes. We're going to share more ideas to help you reduce your RMD, that and more, coming up on the Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group. All righty.
Yeah, I
thought you were going to say.
Is that where you were?
No.
Okay.
It's not that big a deal, guys. I'm just keeping you on the edge of your seats.
Well, you're going to take it all the way to the fourth quarter here, aren't you?
Maybe I will. Kevin, you were talking about, so holidays. Mm-hmm. You're like, you got to know a divisor, the in-laws. That's what I was like. I was going to interject with a joke of who's the divisor? In-laws, whoever your in-laws are. Yeah. Anyway, bad joke. Apparently, I'm glad I skipped it.
That's fine. I mean,
it was hilarious, actually.
Yeah, a doggone knee slapper. So I mean, you're right. So you were. Did I tell you how you know when a joke becomes a dad joke? In the delivery, it becomes apparent.
Oh yes. Lindsay, got Lindsay.
Thank you for the courtesy chuckle, Lindsay.
Is that the real laughter?
The check is in the mail.
Wow. You got
All
it.
right.
How about that?
Third segment. Maybe in this segment, I don't know. We might finish it. I don't know, but just sharing ideas. Maybe I'll start with the new paradigm. It's nothing exciting.
Yeah, start with the new old paradigm. That'd be great.
Here's why I said that. I circled back to it, even though I missed the joke and it wasn't even that funny anyway. I circled back to it because I wanted to. Kevin's got a dad joke switch, and all you need to do, you don't even need to flip the switch. You touch anything near that switch, and so now
they're gonna start flowing.
They're gonna start.
I know.
There we go.
Man, they're not funny, but courtesy chuckle just kind of makes your day. I can probably go for a good month on that one.
All right, third segment. Here we go. What can you be doing to reduce the taxes on your required minimum distribution? This requirement that starts in your 70s that maybe pushes you into a higher tax bracket, causes you to pay more tax on your Social Security, even potentially causes you to pay more for your Medicare Part B and Part D. You got to be planning for it. We're helping with that right now. This is the Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group. Thanks for being here. My name is Mike Bernard. With me in the KFG studios, Kevin Korhorn and Josh Gregory. Every episode of the Wise Money Show is on podcast, wherever you listen. Search the Wise Money Show. Subscribe to it there. Follow us there. Rate the program there. You can share it there as well. We appreciate all of that. All right, so here's the big ideas. Question from Donna, 71. Is there anything I can do right now to reduce the taxes I'm going to pay on my RMDs here in a couple of years? Here's the thing. How much during your working career are you thinking about RMDs? Probably not at all. Probably very, very little, right? You're thinking about how can should I get a tax deduction today or not? How much can I save? If I save too much, am I going to have, cash flow is going to be tight, blah, blah, blah. Guys, it's during your working career where you set yourself up for the most choice and option around managing future RMDs. I mean, think about it. It's the proactive work that you do. And so, Donna, there are still options at 71, and we're speaking to those. But I just want to emphasize, this is why, even if retirement for you is still 10 years away, 20 years away, this content is for you. This discussion is for you so that you can set yourself up to have the most choice and flexibility out there in retirement. Requirement is a requirement. Financial planning is all about choice. So get proactive and work ahead. And therefore, one of the ideas, and Donna, maybe a little bit difficult for you to do this right now, but fund Roths. Fund Roths. If you want to reduce your RMD out there in the future, or the taxes that you're going to be obligated to pay out there in the future during your career, that's just one little thing. It's not the thing that flips the scale from, I was doing pre-tax and now I have to do Roth because I'm afraid of RMDs. But it's one little thing that you would add on to the scale of, Roths might be something to consider.
And if you're not immediately connecting those dots, though, a Roth IRA, why a Roth? Because a Roth doesn't have a required minimum distribution. You've already paid the tax on the dollars before you even made the contribution, and now every dollar in that account is growing tax-free and without this required minimum distribution that you're going to have to deal with. And so the more money that you have in the Roth IRA as opposed to a traditional IRA or a traditional 401k, those have not only an IOU to the government attached to it, but also the obligation on the timing of when you pull money out. That's what this whole required minimum distribution thing is all about. So by simply diversifying where you have your retirement assets accumulating, some of it in a Roth, some of it in a traditional, you are, by definition, reducing the amount of obligation that's attached to the traditional side.
Yeah, and if I was going to finish Joshua's sentence, he said the Roth does not have a required minimum distribution. And the rest of that sentence is, until you die.
Yeah.
And so this is where, instead of playing checkers, you want to be playing chess. And then if you want to take it up one, let's play 3D chess. But it used to be, hey, pile up as much money in the retirement plan as you can. Get your benefit up front. You're probably not going to use all that money. All that money can go to the kids, and they can pull it out over their lifetime and pay the taxes. That concept is called a stretch IRA, and it was a pretty sweet deal. Well, the Secure Act did away with that and said, no, the kids or whoever your beneficiary is has 10 years to pay the tax. Well, if I've got a $2 million IRA, that's a lot of tax. And if the beneficiary is in their peak earning years when they inherit it, that's a lot of tax on top of a lot of tax. That's taking them out of, hey, I no longer get the child tax credit. Hey, I no longer get the
college credits or something. Yeah, there's all kinds of goodies that could go away.
The Q bid or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And so, there's all kinds of things. This is where, and I like Mike's idea of saying, hey, because when he's saying, hey, fund the Roth IRA, when you're like, well, she can't fund the Roth IRA, she's not working. Nope, but she could for her kids. Yep. She could for her grandkids. And it doesn't stop there, because, just wait, there's more. You can fund the Roth. You can fund the 529. You can fund the HSA. And one of my favorite ways to get the next generation prepared to handle money is to give them money of their own that is not going to impact anything. It's not going to impact their lifestyle. This money goes into accounts that are going to grow long-term for them. And now they're seeing, okay, so this is what it feels like to have money that I don't run out and spend right away. Yeah. This is what it feels like to have delayed gratification. These are the skills that I need when I am going to inherit $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, whatever I'm going to be inheriting.
That's right.
I love what you guys you've each hit on this here a little bit, that when you have to take a required minimum distribution, you're over age 73, there's a calculation each year, you have to pull money out, and you don't necessarily have to spend it. In fact, if you're used to living off of other income or other assets, and this really is just sort of an extra bit of income to you, you can stockpile it in your own name, in a bank account, in CDs. You could buy mutual funds. But what you guys are pointing to is, what if you were stockpiling this in a completely different generation's name?
Yep.
And thinking way longer term than what you maybe had been. Thinking about setting up your kids or your grandkids for an even better retirement or a better future. And that's just gifting them the assets or gifting it into an account for them, making the choice for them, but setting them up with compounding assets that are tax sheltered and growing for decades out into the future.
Yeah. So, I mean, one of the ways to reduce the taxes on your required minimum distribution is to have a smaller required minimum distribution.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and
that's right.
And that can be accomplished in a lot of ways. Donna, if you were working with someone and you had sufficient income where you weren't taking distributions, because for a lot of folks, their income plan is to take money off of their IRA. So if you're taking distributions from your IRA, it's quite possible you're satisfying your required minimum distributions, and you don't have to worry about it. You have to be aware. You have to make sure that you've done the sufficient amount so that you're not in penalty land. But no, I'm taking the appropriate amount out of my qualified money and paying taxes.
Yeah, oftentimes people are in retirement. They're drawing money out of their IRA to supplement their Social Security, and then they get a letter in the mail saying you've got this required minimum distribution. And so what do? They
go pull more, huh?
They go take that out as well.
Right.
And no, that's an aggregate required. You got to at least do this. So, okay, we've been talking about the Roth, but we've been talking about one side of the Roth, contributions. Mm-hmm. And the way to make a contribution to the Roth, you got to have earned income. You got to be working, which is why we said you could take out your RMD and then gift it to a child, grandchild, because presuming that they're working and eligible to fund. But there's another side of the Roth. There's another way to get money into a Roth IRA, and that's a Roth conversion. Donna, you can absolutely do this right now, and it will help reduce your RMD because it's reducing your pre-tax money, moving that money over, or a chunk of it over to the Roth IRA.
And this might feel like, well, that's going in the opposite direction of what I want to go because I'm trying to reduce my tax bill here. And here we're suggesting that you be proactive and pay more in taxes this year. That's what a Roth conversion is all about. It's you choosing proactively to move money out of a traditional IRA into a Roth IRA. You pay the tax in between, but you would do that if you know that today or this year is a better tax bracket than maybe what you're going to see out there in the future. And so the more money that you can pay in these lower tax brackets, the better, ultimately. Mm-hmm. And the more money that you shift out of the traditional IRA to the Roth, it achieves what Kevin was saying earlier. It reduces the amount of money that's even exposed to these required minimum distributions in the future.
Yeah, if you're listening to this and you are retired, you should know exactly what your income should be and exactly what you're going to be willing to pay taxes on the federal side of the house. We're working with some folks in case class, and they've got meaningful amounts of qualified money, and their income, their adjusted gross income, was $16,000.
Oh, yeah, no.
And we're looking at that saying that, no. Your adjusted gross income, if you got a bunch of qualified money, it probably needs to be about $94,000. For a married couple, that's the top of the 12% tax bracket.
So how do you do that? You do a Roth conversion and choose to pay some taxes today at some really low rates so those dollars won't be taxed out there again in the future. All right, there's some more ideas. What can you do to reduce the taxes you pay on your RMD? We've got that more coming up on the Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group.
Good. That's good.
I had a feeling.
Still waiting to hear your big idea.
No. That was baked in there. It was baked in. Yeah.
I missed it.
Just the, and the idea was.
That's Josh's gentle and kind way of saying, Mike.
No, I told you it wasn't much, but it's thinking specifically of IRMA during your career. This is the last thing you're thinking about is Medicare. Well, when are you going to have the most influence on what your modified adjusted gross income is going to be? While you're saving. And right. I can't think of Medicare, and it might not, whatever. That's when you have the most influence, and the same applies. So I just did a next 5 step video, which is why you need to subscribe to the channel and be watching those, where I really sort of emphasize that point. And the same thing applies to RMDs. Like if you're just aware that, hey, this thing is coming, it's not going to totally change what you're doing, but it might influence it a little bit because you've got a lot of choice right now. Yeah. And if you exercise that choice appropriately now, you'll set yourself up to continue to have choice in the future versus, required, stuck. So that was I didn't share it really well, but.
I hear you.
All right, 4th segment. So we'll wrap up. There's a couple more ideas, blah, 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 and then that are really quick. And then we'll talk about the new inherited IRA rules. Should we look at the question bank and see if there's another one to grab? Okay. Or, I'm wondering if we even have time.
We're landing the plane?
Yeah.
No, here's the thing. I would argue that you don't have to be worried about IRMA. So don't even look at it.
Perfect. Let's have it on the air.
Good. I'm ready to be
last segment.
I get to be the referee.
No, it's good.
No, I'm ready to be a little obstinate.
Yeah,
I got it in me today.
Makes for good drama.
We love drama.
All right, here we go. Thanks for being here. This is the Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group. My name is Mike Bernard. With me in the KFG studios, Kevin Korhorn and Josh Gregory. Every episode of the Wise Money Show, as well as a lot of other content, is on the Wise Money YouTube channel. Go check it out. Go to YouTube, search the Wise Money Show, subscribe to it there. Follow us there as well. You can leave comments there. You can share content as well. We appreciate it. There's a lot of content, well over 1,000 videos, not just these talk shows, but next Wise Step videos that air all throughout the work week. So go to YouTube, search the Wise Money Show, check it out. Talking about ways to minimize the taxes on your RMD. And a part of that is a function of, do you have to take it, or how can you reduce that pool of money that you're required to take a distribution on? A couple more ideas. This is sort of we're really grasping for it. These aren't like the first ideas you'd think of, but just covering the bases. If you're working, you don't need to take an RMD from that 401k. You would still need to take an RMD from your IRA, but if you're working and you've got a 401k and that 401k allows contributions in, you could put more money into that 401k. Now, that would be a way of delaying your RMD, right, until you retire, and then you'll have a bigger pool of dollars that you'll need to draw from, and that's where you need to think multi-year with your tax planning, because you might look at that and say, oh gosh, that's just going to make the problem bigger. But that's an option. Just know if you're still working, even part-time, whatever, then you don't need to take a required minimum distribution from that 401k. And then the other one, so the big idea is about having choice and flexibility. Josh, you've used that as one of the ways that you would define financial planning, is not only the process of making a wise decision when you have a decision to make, like what are your choices, but then also proper or well-executed financial planning gives you choice. It gives you flexibility. Well, that's part of the problem with RMDs. Well, you're restricted. There is another restriction that you can shackle yourself with, and that limits and manages your RMDs. It really delays them, and it's something called a QLAC. We're not even going to get into it. It's not our favorite because it limits your choices, limits growth, limits choices, a lot of limitations. In the Secure Act 2.0, they actually increased the amount that you could do towards these things, but you got to be careful of anyone saying, "Oh, you have to do this," because they might not be looking at all of your financial life and all that you give up in choice when you would do something like that.
I think a QLAC is the perfect picture of just because you can doesn't mean you should.
100%. 110%.
I thought you were going to say
Kevin.
a solution in search of a problem that it can solve or something like that. It feels like every time that I look at this with clients, it's always been I understand the concept, but it just doesn't work in this situation.
Dude, when the cure is worse than the disease, don't do it. Just don't do it.
Completely agree. Completely agree.
So here's the thing that Mike, you were kind of hinting at, look, during your working years or whenever you are, you're always thinking about optimizing. And I'm thinking about Irma. I'm worried about Irma. And I would say, don't worry about Irma if you're married and you got a couple $1 million in your IRA. That's not the issue. The issue and the reason why you need to do proactive planning and in your late 50s, early 60s, be looking at a multi-year tax projection is not worrying about Irma if I'm married. It's worried about Irma if one of the spouses dies.
Yes.
Now,
and worry about your RMD in that situation as well, because if you're looking and saying, well, my RMD is still going to just get me into the 12% tax bracket, I'm fine. Okay, well, compare that thing to single tax brackets.
That's
right. Because really what happens when one of the spouses dies, everything doubles. So if you said, all right, as a married couple, I can pay 12 cents on the dollar up to $94,300. Well, you're at $47,150 if you're single. Now,
so in other words, it takes half as much income to get you into those higher tax brackets. Right?
Exactly. And if you said, hey, our income is from our required minimum distribution or the money off our couple $1 million retirement plan and Social Security, all of a sudden, not only are you through basically the 24% tax bracket as a single person, as a widow or a widower, but you now are going to be subject to IRMA. And you're, instead of paying $170, you're going to pay $238 or $340 or whatever the number is for your Medicare Part B. Mm-hmm. And so it does become punitive. And you say, well, as long as we have two lives to work with, this is why you got to do planning. Because if I have two lives to work with, I have much more opportunity and a greater ability to optimize. And when I'm down to one, that opportunity gets cut in half. Mm-hmm. And the problem is we've studied this, like any married couple that starts retirement, there has yet to be a married couple that makes it out alive. Mm-hmm. So retirement is 100% terminal. You're both going to leave this earth at some point in time. So the question is, what are you leaving to your heirs? And I know the folks that have said, listen, I've worked really hard. I'm not making these decisions. They can make the decisions when I'm gone. And I would just ask you, if you wanted to give a gift, like give the gift of planning to yourself and then to your heirs.
Or even go up a generation as well, because I love that you're pointing to the fact that you need to think not just in multi-years, but maybe multi-generations,
Yes.
because this may be part of that motivation that you were talking about earlier, Mike, how during your working career, you need to be planning, what am I setting myself up to have in required minimum distributions, right?
Yes.
How much do I accumulate in IRAs versus Roth IRAs or traditional 401ks versus Roth 401ks? And don't just think about how do you want to optimize the split between those two different buckets that you're using for your retirement savings. Pay attention to, is there any potential inheritance that could be coming down? Are there IRA dollars that haven't been taxed that are in mom and dad's name? Mm-hmm. And right around the time that you start drawing your required minimum distributions, what if you also inherited a bunch of money that hasn't been taxed? And now you've got a 10-year window to be able to pull money out of those accounts as well. And so you could be doing a bunch of different great planning, but not paying attention to the things that are wonderful blessings that could be coming from your parents or even grandparents someday. But do you know what impact that will have on your required minimum distributions? And should you be doing something now while you have time to kind of neutralize your own tax time bomb to be ready for dealing with maybe one that drops in your lap from a prior generation?
And this is a little aside, but I mean, what Josh is talking about is, hey, I'm getting close to taking my required minimum distributions. I'm getting in the 65 plus, say maybe 70 range when I'm starting to think about this, and then I get an inheritance. Do you ever think about that? Like, and I've thought about that, and I've told my dad, look, Dad, enjoy your money, because as far as I can tell, my dad, who's 82, could live another 20 years. Well, if I need that money when I'm 76, I have much bigger problems. So I need to work on my problem set. Yeah. But you're right, Josh, that does enter into the picture. Hey, what kind of planning should all of the generations be doing, and should it be coordinated?
Yeah, well, and that's a good segue. Just wanted to drip this in as well, since we're taking the whole show to talk through these questions. But the new inherited IRA rules start next year, start in a couple of weeks. And that is the 10-year rule replaced the stretch IRA starting in 1/1 of 2020, where if you inherit an IRA from someone that's not your spouse, you can take it all out. But if you choose not to, you got to take out at least a minimum amount throughout your life. That's stretch IRA. That changed. You're grandfathered in for anyone that passed away, you inherited before 1/1 of 2020. After 1/1 of 2020, it's replaced by the 10-year rule, where you've got to just empty the account within 10 years, or so we thought. The IRS has gone back and forth, and now they are requiring a RMD every year and the account to be emptied within 10 years, as long as the person you inherited it from was already taking their RMDs as well. So new rules that impact RMDs, which need you to be, like, it just urges you, it forces you, it like just pushes you to do planning, multi-generational planning at that. RMDs are not the reason, it's not the boogeyman, but having more choice. That's what you're striving towards. And you can do it. Work with your certified financial planner. All right, that's all we have for today. On behalf of Josh Gregory, Kevin Korhorn, all of us at Korhorn Financial Group, have a great weekend. We'll see you next Saturday for the Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group.
Securities offered through Silver Oak Securities, member FINRA/SIPC. Advisory services offered through KFG Wealth Management, LLC. Doing business as Korhorn Financial Group. KFG Wealth Management, LLC and Silver Oak Securities Incorporated companies are unaffiliated.